Hey guys, my name is Divya. I am a doctor and I have been in a management role with a healthcare company for a while. I've been taking a series of management exams in my life and I've been doing videos about it on my channel. So I am SHRM certified and PGMP certified from the different management bodies. And I've been doing a series of videos on the SHRM certification, the PMP certification, and there are more to come, I promise, on my channel. So today, guys, I wanted to do a video about how should we study for certification exams? How should we approach certification exams? I think certification exams are extremely unique because we're not full-time students anymore. We're actually full-time working professionals. And a lot of professionals from different areas, from different parts of the world, decide to take an exam and decide that they want to enhance what they already have, improve their certifications, improve their resume, better their resume, and show that they actually care about their profession. I think the last point is the most important. These certifications truly make you stand out because you made that extra effort. You had that zing about you because you wanted to do something extra in your profession, even though you might already have a degree in that profession. HR professionals have an MBA in HR and they still pursue the SHRM. So many MBAs in marketing or finance and other specializations go ahead and take the PMP and the PGMP. And I think it just shows what you have. You have the zing, you have the grit, and you're probably one of the best athletes in your profession. So certifications are unique. It's for full-time working professionals with families and tons of responsibilities. So I wanted to discuss as to how to go about studying for it, and this video is dedicated to all of you. So here are my 10 tips. 10 tips on how to study for certification exams. So let's get right into it. Tip number 1, discuss it with your friends and family. So if you're in a profession like the HR profession, or maybe you are a developer or a tester and want to take a management exam, I think it's really good to discuss it with your colleagues, your friends, and maybe even your seniors. If you have a supportive senior or a supervisor, I think it can take you a very long way. I have a whole team reporting to me, and whenever somebody wants to come discuss a certification with me, I feel really, really happy about it, guys. I feel like my team or this team member actually wants to do something extra, show that they have it in them, and make all that effort. It takes a lot of effort to study for a certification exam, and she wants to take all that effort to study for this exam. So I take it in a very positive light, and I always encourage them to discuss it with me and the team around. So this makes you see a certification really, really clearly. Like, you want to know that these certifications are going to help you and actually going to benefit you. So whether it's the right decision for you or not, I think it's totally worth a discussion. Tip number 2, join a WhatsApp group prior to making your decision. So most professional intense exams out there have multiple WhatsApp groups floating around. These are groups where people throw suggestions about how they studied, what resources they used, what kind of questions they are stumped on. So, sometimes you're stumped on a question and you really want to discuss it with someone. But now you're not in a school or a college when you can just ask your neighbor or your classmate. Since you're a working professional, you actually have to find someone else who's taking that exam or is at least interested in that exam. So it's good to find people who are studying and good to find alumni who've already taken the exam and want to help you out. So for these WhatsApp groups, I think LinkedIn is a really good resource. A lot of times when I've wanted to find a WhatsApp group for an exam that I'm taking, I just go onto LinkedIn and search for it. If you're unable to do it that way, I think it's good to contact administrators of that exam in your particular country, because most of these management institutes or organizations are running different chapters in different countries. And if you do contact them, I think you will end up finding a WhatsApp group or a social media group where you can discuss your questions and post your queries prior to deciding on taking the exam. Most of these exams are expensive and extremely intense, meaning intense in terms of studying and hard work. So make your decision after speaking to a lot of people. I think it will help you out. My tip number 3, once you've made your decision and you want to take the exam, do not delay the application. So all of these certification exams, SHRM, PMP, PGMP, have an application process where you'll have to go on the website of that particular organization or the body and actually apply for the exam. So they are going to ask you a few questions, right? How many years of experience do you have? Why do you want to take the exam? And you have to be able to justify it, and you have to be able to ensure that you meet the eligibility criteria. So I think that it's good to go ahead and do the application right away. There are certain management exams I've taken where the application took about a month. Yes, the application was that intense. So there are so many essays to write and so many things to write about from your past experiences that the application itself takes about a month, and then it takes about a couple of weeks for it to get accepted and reviewed by that particular body. So that's what I would say. Don't delay your application. Just go ahead and do it right away. Tip number 4. Once you've made the decision and made your application and your application has been accepted, do not delay the studying. It's very easy to procrastinate and think that I'm going to start tomorrow or next week or next month. But guys, just start studying. In fact, I would say just start reading. Instead of studying, the pre-reading for all the certification exams is really, really important, and more to come on that in the next few tips. My tip number 5. Now that you've made the decision that you're going to take the exam, you've already applied, your application is accepted, just make that decision of which resources that you're going to use. And this is a tough one, guys, because there are different resources available for every single exam, and it's hard to know which one's the best. But the WhatsApp group, the discussions with your friends and colleagues should help you with that. And I think you also should use your own judgment. So the different resources that I have used have obviously been different for every single exam. But I think it's very important to choose your resource early on. Otherwise, you'll just be jumping back and forth. And believe me, that's tiring, it's wasteful, and it doesn't go anywhere. So you want to go with the one resource. So in my case for SHRM, I chose the Learning Management System. It's an expensive resource, but it's sort of all comprehensive and all in one. So it does give you all the practice exams, quiz questions, flashcards, reading material, etc., etc. The only other thing that I used was the SHRM book, which is free and it's online. I think anybody can download that. For the PMP, I used the Rita Mulcahy's book, and I used certain question banks. And for PGMP, I used the Standard by PMI, and I used question banks again by Ginger Levin and Jean Liu. I can leave those names of the books in the description box below. But these are just a few examples of resources that we should be using. As I said, decide on your resources early on. My tip number 6, trust your study material and focus on your study material. So now that you've already decided which study materials to use, guys, just focus on it. It's very easy to think that, oh, XYZ is using this resource and maybe I should jump towards that, or maybe I should look at something else and something else and something else, but that's a never-ending process. Once you've made your decision, stick to the learning material and ensure that you try and use that learning material, because the focus should be there so that we know those things inside out. We need to be able to repeat ourselves, right? Repetition is the mother of learning. So you want to be able to focus on materials to repeat it enough number of times so that you've committed it to memory and have understood things along the way. My tip number 7, overestimate study time instead of underestimating it. Every time I've taken a certification, there's always someone who says, oh, I took 2 weeks off and I just studied and cleared the exam. I took 2 months and did everything and I was done. And you know what? I don't really know if these stories are true or not, but if they are, then hats off to them. For me, it's always taken about 4 to 6 months to get ready, to get, feel somewhat confident to be able to take an intense certification exam. So if you're one of them who takes 3 to 6 months, 4 to 6 months, guess what, guys? I don't think you should be feeling bad. I think you're just someone who's being true to their own selves. Because a lot of times when I've drilled these people down and asked them, hey, how much time did you spend on your application? Or how much time did you do, every day? Or then when did you actually purchase the material? Everything usually points to the same 4 to 6 months that I'm talking about. I think a lot of people forget that they've put in all this work because it's easy to forget about all this, right? Human beings have a tendency to forget about hard times. And then they try to remember the end when it was intense, and that's the only time that they're factoring in. So, overestimate your study time. Know that intense certification exams take 4 to 6 months, and that is totally fine. Tip number 8, set a little bit of time every day using the resources that you chose to study, and study that little bit every day. I've said this in my videos previously, in many of my videos, and I can only study in small chunks because I'm a full-time working professional. I cannot go sit at the library for 4 to 6 hours because I don't have 4 to 6 hours. I'm not a full-time student. I'm someone who goes to work full-time, and I have a family. I have a 4-year-old floating around, so I have to make sure that all those things are taken care of. So when I started studying intensely for any certification exam, it's usually half an hour to 45 minutes a day. It can be at the beginning of the day because a lot of times I start working in the afternoon and work till late at night. It can also be during my lunch hour because you eat lunch quickly and then you study for 30 to 45 minutes. These 30 to 45 minutes are valuable. You may feel like you're not getting anywhere, but you really are. So trust yourself and just get started. My tip number 9, use the active recall method while studying. And before using the active recall method, please ensure that you are pre-reading everything. So this is a certification exam. Nobody told you that this is when the exam is going to be. Nobody told you what and how to study, and nobody forced you into this, right? This is totally your decision. So the number one thing to do is, once you've chosen your learning material, your study material, ensure that you pre-read it. You can pre-read the whole thing and then start studying, or you can pre-read a section at a time. I usually do a section at a time. For example, for the SHRM, there are 6 competencies, and those are divided into different sections and subsections. So I usually do one section, pre-read, and then actually start studying and using the active recall method. The active recall method is also something I've spoken about earlier, and it's really easy, guys. You want to read something, and then you want to close the textbook and then see how much you can recollect from memory. I prefer writing it down in points, not to make notes, but just to see that I can actually recollect things. Tip number 10, decide if you want to join a class. Most of the certification exams do have classes running. They're expensive most of the times, but it's up to you to decide whether you want to join a class. I have joined a class for one certification exam that I've taken, and that's been the PGMP. For everything else, I self-studied. I felt like I could do it, and it's been just fine. It has worked out for me. Either way, you need to decide what you want to do, whether you take a class or not. Pre-reading is extremely important and the right step towards studying. So make sure you pre-read and go to class, or make sure you pre-read and then start studying. So guys, these were my 10 tips to actually study for certification exams. After I wrote out the script, I felt like I had a lot more to say. So believe me, there is going to be a part 2 to this video because I have a lot more to tell you and share in terms of how to study for certification exams, since I've been taking them for the last decade. Once again, I do hope that these videos are helping you. If you've already made the decision to take an exam, all the very best. Please send me your questions and comments, and I do try and answer every single question and comment. Thank you so much for watching.